I had chili back to back.
Oh, I thought you were singing the song from Greece. I had chili.
I had chili 2 times.
It was
And my
multiplying.
toilet is a big crater in the ground.
That's a creepy minor key version.
I need some pills. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Chris Plant, go get me pills. You're my neighbor, get me pills.
I got Nexium and Prilosec. No, I really do. I'm on both right now. It's a double up PPI.
My name is Justin McElroy, and I know the best games of the month.
My name is Griffin McElroy, and I know the best games of the month.
My name is Chris Plant, and I know the best games of the Chili Boy.
My name is Russ, and I've been hanging around this town of Florida.
Welcome to the
yeah,
Besties, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Counting Crows tracks. Everything from August and everything after through Hard Candy and all the other great Counting Crows albums, of which I assume there are new ones. The law of large numbers would state that those have continued to be produced.
Do you know
Films
the
about
thing about
ghosts.
the Crows, though? I just want to hit this since we are a Crows podcast. The best music isn't on their albums. It's on the soundtracks, baby. Shrek.
Yeah.
Shrek 2.
Shrek.
Shrek 3. Shrek Ever After.
Their last full album was in 2014, and I think we are overdue to get a little bit of that good old crow
I've been
juice.
counting the
Crows.
days.
A little bit of that Feast for Crows.
Do
It's
they
hot.
have a song that's like 28, 29? Oh, there's another one. 30. Oh, 31.
Mm.
Oh, there's one up on the telephone pole. 32.
Mhm.
Oh my God, Griffin.
What happens after that one?
33. That one
You would
almost flew right into me.
crucify me
Shoot.
for this gag.
But this week we're going to talk about video games. You know, they've come a long way since
Maybe.
Pac-Man, the Pac-Man trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Baby
I-
Pac-Man, the
Baby
lesser
Pac-Man,
known.
Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, the whole quadrilogy. There's a fourth one too. Did you ever play the fourth one?
No.
It's an FMV game full of nudity, and it was banned in America, so you wouldn't probably have played it.
Mm.
It's called Phantasmagoria, and
Start-
everybody talks about how cool that game is. We've never played it, but Pac-Man is in it, and he does all kinds of sex.
Starred Adam
weird. I
Duritz
thought it was
as
a night
Pac-Man. Yeah, it starred Adam Duritz as Pac-Man. Just gobbling up ghosts.
Uh-huh.
What games did everybody play this time?
Ooh, thank you.
Thank you, Griffin.
Well, we should get into honorable mentions first, right?
Yeah,
We have
that's
a
what
big
it is.
honorable mention, and I'm going to alley-oop it to Hoops himself. Y'all, this Assassin's Creed Origins. What if I told you? This is my pitch for it. Assassin's Creed, right? Think about Assassin's Creed from the last, I don't know, like 5 years. But this time it's good.
And release it on the worst possible day ever.
Yeah.
That's not their fault, Russ. Get off their jock. So it's, oh man, the new Assassin's Creed game is something else, I tell you. For me, and I've played like a good amount of it, though I have like no metric on how far into the game I have actually gone.
Do you have those hand knives yet?
Yeah, you do get the hand knives, just one in this one. 'cause
Born
it's
pretty
to
early on.
hand knife, baby. So there's another one.
That's a great, kind of a good joke. Assassin's Creed Origins is in Egypt, and you're a cat named Bayek, who's a magi, which is a protector, I guess.
I thought it was Magi. I didn't think it was Magi.
They pronounce it magi. I don't.
Oh.
Let me ask you, I hate the lore, but does it have any like modern day lore stuff?
Yeah. So you're a woman who seems to be sort of like on the outs with Abstergo, kind of a rogue agent with a friend, and she has basically hooked a portable animus up to a mummy. and that is what she is. I know. And that is what she is, how she is exploring the
They are
memories.
really just kind of
Just kinda going
expanding
for
what
it.
this thing is. Like I put it on a big bowl of oranges, and now I get to be Picasso.
Could you like dig up Checkers Nixon's dog and just like experience the Nixon White House that way?
I mean, in this rich fiction, in this rich tapestry, yes.
This White House is a woof.
I want to hear what Plant thought of it, but for me, it's like the definition of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Like so it's been a while since the last one, Syndicate, I guess was 2 years ago at this point. Is that correct? 2015 for Syndicate, is that right? So they took longer than they normally do to release this Assassin's Creed game, or at least longer than they got in the habit of doing. And the things that are good about it, the world is like so expansive. I mean, like massive, to a point where I've been playing for, I would guess, about 20 hours, and there's like half the map I haven't even explored yet. I just got to Memphis, which is massive. That's right, it encompasses you can get to Tennessee. It's so strange. I just got to Memphis, and which is like a major city, and I literally just got there after 20 hours, and there's huge chunks of the map that I've yet to unearth.
Do they have struggle with like environmental variety?
I mean, yeah, in like the most practical sense, because I mean, it is ancient Egypt. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, there isn't like a Starbucks that you're going to be climbing over or whatever, but there is definitely some it gets a little grating, I would say, or a little monotonous, because there's not a lot of like tall buildings. There's a few tall buildings that you're going to be scaling, but I think you lose that, in a lot of Assassin's Creed games, there's this cool thing of like, I'm going to get up to the rooftops, and like, that's how I'm going to get around. Like, I'm just going to sort of like point A to point B along the rooftops. And that's a very fun way of traversing. This is much more spread out. There's a lot of like large expanses. And you do have a horse that you can call, at will, you can use to ride the long distances between, but it feels weird. It doesn't have the flow in between the sections.
Sure, yeah.
So like, it's huge, but also there are so many things you can do, and for me, it has struggled with the remember in Dragon Age Origins, another Origins game, strangely, like everybody told you like, you got to get out of what was the first area, the hinterlands, is that right?
Yeah.
You got to get out of the hinterlands. Don't stick
Wait,
around.
are you talking about the latest one? That wasn't Origins, that was Inquisition.
You got to get out of the hinterlands, and Origins was the first one, wasn't it? But I think it was just Origins was in my head. But there are so many side quests to do. And do you remember, like, 2 or 3 Assassin's Creeds ago, there was like a rating system for missions? Where, like, after you did the mission, you could like rate it, like, good mission.
Yeah.
And it's so strange. I actually found myself like wishing that was in there, because there's like so many side quests that I'm starting to get pretty done with Assassin's Creed Origins, and a lot of the side quests I've done have been like so bogus. There are some where it's like a chunk of the mission is you like picking up hay and putting it in carts for people. There's so many like odd jobs, like somebody go check on my workers. I lost my horse. Go find my horse. And okay, I don't have anything better to do, so I'm gonna go do that. So I'm starting to get sort of over the experience, and there are still so many side quests popping up, but I did so many early on because I like to be completionist with side missions in games. I don't go for all the collectibles or whatever. And I feel like I'm starting to get a little burnt out, and I do wish there was like a rating system so I could know like, this is a fun one, you should do this one, and this is
and then you can
bogus.
filter out from the map, like, just to hide all the 1 to 2 star ones. Just
Yes,
get those the
exactly.
fuck out of my sight.
Following a guy in a crowd.
I think it would be cool if, for a certain type of gamer, if you're buying the game and you're like, this is my November, this is what I'm doing this month, then I think that like it could be very good, because the stuff is like, none of it's terrible or annoying. It's just like, I'm sort of got the experience, and I would like to finish the main story path, but I'm feeling so unmotivated.
Yeah.
The main hero Bayek is very good. He's in sort of a break from recent Assassin's Creed. Like, he's very warm and like smiles and laughs a lot, which is very cool. He's not like super grimdark, which is interesting because he has a sort of dark backstory that has gotten him to this point. Because it is so early in the canon, there's not a lot. It doesn't get super bogged down with like Assassins v Templar mythos, I would say, in the chunks I've played. It is hard though, because I have zero familiarity with ancient Egypt or this time period whatsoever, and it can get pretty overwhelming with like the different factions and names being thrown at you constantly when I have like no frame of reference for anything that's happening, which is a tribute to my own ignorance. And to its credit, I have felt like a lot more sort of in tune. Like, it is sad when I could say the Assassin's Creed game has been a good education for me, but it has in fact been just that. The combat is much more fun than I think previous Assassin's Creed games. It feels very good. There's a lot of like active combos, and there's like an overcharge stamina bar. There's parrying on the fly. There's all kinds of good stuff, but the stealth feels worse than it has previously. So you're, as fun as it is to run into a group of people and just sort of level them, you get spotted super easy. And there's a lot of I think that feels worse than it has in other games, which makes me lean on that combat more. The only other thing I wanted to hit, and if there's specific points anybody else wants to talk about, I think that'd be cool. But the only other thing is you can spend a lot of cash in this game, and
Abstergo bucks that you got by doing challenges,
In-game currency or like real world currency?
Like real world currency to a pretty buck wild extreme. I decided to. Because I didn't have a lot of time to play this game. No,
Justin,
I mean,
Justin.
No. This is intentional. I wanted to know if you could like sort of break the experience through money, because ideally, right, you shouldn't be able to. I would say
an experiment for the good of mankind, is what you're saying.
Very generous.
No, I was curious, and I had some bucks, so I thought, hey, I'm going to see if I can. The answer is yes, very much so. You can buy gold, right? So you could buy gold, you can buy crafting materials, and they have very much incentivized this because they're all the upgrades. It's a sort of Far Cry system, so all the upgrades to like your health and melee damage, and range damage. Yeah. Oh, except you need 50 or and each ammo drops 3. So it's like so infuriating, and I cannot imagine anybody like. You would have to love hunting in this game to do as much as you would need to for upgrading. But no, you could just give us a few bucks and we'll just give you a crate. Just drop a crate of 300 vulture skulls.
Wait, does a crate actually drop down?
No, it just spawns directly into your inventory. You can buy weapons. You can buy exotic weapons. You can buy the money you need to upgrade those weapons. You can buy ability points. So like, you don't even need to level up. You could just buy the ability points in the game and it slows leveling way down to a point where you're not getting ability points very often, and then abilities start costing 3 levels worth of points to unlock, and they very much like want to make it tempting to do this. But you can buy, like, you could just sit down and pay a bunch of money and get like unlock all the abilities, get top-notch gear, upgrade them, and just be at what like maps to everything. You buy them, and they'll just throw them all on your map for you. I mean, they call them time savers, but like the question I was struggling with,
that's it. You're literally describing if you ever buy any box in any video game is explicitly a time saver, because it's time you're not spending playing the game. That's like the nature of this. I wish we had more time to record, because I feel like we could go for a fucking hour talking about. Because this in the last month, like it felt like that conversation. Somebody poured gasoline on it and set it the fuck on fire. That you can't have a single player game without loot boxes anymore, and we're deciding this month. So if everybody doesn't buy Wolfenstein, it's the end of the industry. And it's like, holy shit, guys.
It's not loot boxes, like it is much more explicit than that, and
Yeah,
a little more
it's
craven. It is literally like pay us a bunch of money and skip stuff. And for me, the big question becomes like, do you, as a game designer at that point, balance the game so that it's fun to do the amount of hunting you need to do to upgrade all your stuff, or do you balance it so that people want to spend extra money to skip it? And like, and the idea of like a time saver in a game like this is crazy because you're playing a video game, right? Like, it shouldn't be a question of like, well, I got my chores to do this month, I gotta get out there and harvest 60 fucking hyenas to upgrade my bracer. Like, it shouldn't be balanced like that, but it absolutely is. And it really like, I wanted to see how bad it would be, and it is really sort of unfathomable to me, and all of a sudden, once you do that though, like, so much of the motivation is removed, right? It's like inputting a cheat code, because a lot of the quests reward you with, there are these tombs that you can explore, and the big reward for finishing the tomb is an ability point. Well, fuck off, I can buy that for $1. What else do you have? Like, so it's really like, and of course, it's not forced on you, of course, but I really feel like it's balanced in such a way that you are incentivized.
Right,
to
that's
do that.
not the issue. That's not the issue anymore. The issue is that, like, if developers of these traditionally single-player, grand, huge experiences are looking at microtransaction loot crate models, they're most of the time they're not saying like, how can I find a way to fit this into my game? They're saying, how can I find a way to retrofit this into my game using the systems that were already in there, and then making them sort of compatible with this business model. And every single time that they do that, it ends up it always ends up like this. And like, people gave Destiny 2 a bunch of shit for the silver market, and I guess Destiny 1 also, but like, that's an example of, in my opinion, a developer doing it right. It's like, here's a bunch of dumb bonus shit, and you can get it the way that you want to get it, instead of like, oh yeah, you could spend 30 hours grinding for insert exotic here, or just give us $5. Yeah, cool, bye. Like,
I think Destiny is a little better, but I think the issue's bigger than the loot crates. I think the issue is games are being designed now to make sure that you retain them for a given number of months, and that they don't fill up the used game market and then take away sales by way of used games. So when you are spending money in Assassin's Creed and they're saving you time, what they're saying is, oh, well, you could give us money now, which will make it so that you complete this game faster and you enjoy your time with it quicker. But we're getting the money back that we would have lost by you becoming somebody who then sells it back to the retailer. And I feel the same way with Destiny. I feel like so much of Destiny's pleasure, and I use that like that is not the right term for it, in my opinion.
No, it gets me hard. I mean,
it's locking. But it's meant to lock the player in. It's still work. Like, you're still largely wasting your time, and to participate in certain things in the game, you have to do the work.
Yes, but this is two different conversations, though. Because
I think they're very connected. I think across the industry, when we talk about moving away from single player, the very top level thing we're talking about is that games are now designed to lock people in, not because they're fun, but because they have hooks. And whether that hook is to get you to like buy a loot box, or it's just to get you to play so many hours in a month, that way they can then use that as data, which they would then sell to an advertiser. Whatever it is, there is a trend that has grown and grown and grown towards developing games to be addictive rather than rewarding. And I think that's like
what bums me out is like, I used to love I used to play games with hooks exclusively because I enjoy a big RPG or games with RPG systems that I can get lost in and feel this path to power and customization and all that shit. And now it's been like perverted in a way. I know I sound very, very naive in talking about this, and it's probably because I'm a little bit salty, because I'd like to talk about a game that I played a little bit. Well, I played a lot over a very short span of time. That's not officially out yet. It comes out this month, and it's Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. I don't know if anybody else got down on this, and I imagine I want to spend a little bit more time talking about it next month once it's properly out. But that game is a cute, sort of boiled down version of the Animal Crossing experience that hits that free-to-pay monetization escalation so fucking quick that it left my head spinning. So you go around and you do favors for your neighbors and attract new animals to come to your camp, and you can go fishing and bug catching and fruit collecting, and then give those to your friends, and then they'll give you, some bells and some experience points and all kinds of shit, and you unlock furniture that you can then build and customize your camp to try to attract new people to come to it. And like on paper, that's great, and it is like a genuinely good little Animal Crossing experience, if not like the fully fleshed out thing that I adore. But the numbers of it get so buck wild so fucking fast, and if it's not tweaked in some way, which is not out of the realm of possibilities. Russ, you remember when Fire Emblem Heroes came out, you could only play that game for like a little bit before you had to wait out that stamina meter.
Sure.
And they did tweak that actually pretty quickly so that you could play the game a little bit more. So like to craft something, right? You start out crafting something. It's like, oh, you want to make this table. It's 6 wood. It's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then the next time you build a table for somebody else, it's 15 wood. Oh, okay, I can do that. And then it's 30 wood. Then it's 60 wood. And then it's 120 wood. And to get that much it's preposterous. It's so much. As a point of reference, there's daily login bonuses, which is not uncommon for a free-to-play game. And I just got one today that was cloth, and you spend cloth on things like rugs. And there's a rug that I want for my camp. It's 120 cloth, and right now I have about 15, and my daily login bonus was 3 more pieces of cloth. So I'm getting just 102 more. It's like so bad. And it genuinely sort of turned me off from the game, because it's like, is it going to get worse? Is there the next time I have to build something? Is it 240 pieces of cloth? Am I going to have to either grind my life away or spend money on leaf tickets that you can use to bypass any part of the game just so I can build a fucking duvet from like, it gets so gross so fast. Also, I put out my friend code out on Twitter, and it broke my friends list, and I haven't been able to open my friends list in the game for a few weeks, which is a bummer. So I don't know. The bones are all there, but the fucking numbers are so bad and so punishing so quickly that I played it constantly for about 3 days, and then I never touched it again.
We need to talk about good things.
Yeah,
that we liked.
Like the games of the month.
Yes.
Why don't we go through the 3 pretty quickly so we can get to that 4th one and have a lot of time to dump into it.
How about I blast through mine really quick, because it'll be a transition, because it's not a great game, but I'll get it out there. Mine is Middle Earth: Shadow of War, which is a sequel to oh my gosh, Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor. The titles are terrible.
Yeah.
Similar to that game, the entire hook is that you are a man who is dead and inhabited partly by another ghost man, and together you use your powers to enslave orcs to do your bidding and to gradually take over little kingdoms. The big difference this time is, instead of a few small maps, now you're taking over entire essentially forts or castles. And you can assign your orcs to fight battles that you're not even there for. You can assign them, once you take over a castle in these giant siege fights, you can assign leaders to manage those castles, which then much later on, can be sieged by enemy orcs. It's just very big. It reminds me of, did y'all play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood?
Yeah, sure.
Remember how you could like get assassins, and then you'd like on text documents like tell them to go fight battles, and then be like, yeah, they won or they lost. It's similar to that, but like you can actually go and participate in those battles if you so choose. It is technically very impressive. The system, especially with the orcs, where you are constantly being badgered by orcs that you've fought and you watch them evolve, is just as great as it was before. It's much funnier. I thought it was pretty funny the first time.
Tell them about the poet one.
Well,
I guess maybe don't spoil it if you don't want to.
I don't know if this is the same one that you're talking about, but my very favorite experience was one who the guy was very eloquent. It might have been the poet, but very eloquent.
An
orc. And you have the option to like kill the orc, or take them to your side, or just outright shame them, which reduces their level. And I just kept shaming the same orc because he just kept showing up on me. And what happened was he became less and less eloquent until he broke down into non-verbal grunts
Aww.
because he completely lost his will to live. At which point I cut off his head.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Dark.
No, that was like, I'm helping him.
Right. He
Are
wouldn't
you?
have wanted to go on that way.
No, he would have been. Can you imagine a poet deprived of words?
Well, I meant it was dark that you brought him to that point, to be
Oh,
honest.
yeah, no, that's kind of the problem with the game, is the game does not know how it feels about the idea of enslaving creatures. Even, I get, like, orcs in the fiction, they are pure evil, so I guess we're not supposed to feel bad
Well, and they
about
also
doing...
tended to be like very straight, like not like interesting evil. They were just like, I hate
Yeah.
good things,
The
and I
problem is-
crush and I kill.
They are so much more interesting than any other character you meet in the game.
Right.
The main story is just dreadful, and all the characters in it are just miserable creatures.
And it's hilarious because when you with a lot of the orcs, when you enslave them, they become fully realized, lovable characters, and it's like, oh shit! Like there
What's
was
the
one guy who
message here?
went from like trying to cut off my head. I waved a magic spell on him, and he was Shrek, just like having lots of fun and cavorting with me through the ranks. It's like, oh, okay, so are you all kind of like, should I be feeling bad about this or not? Like, which is it? Because
And late in the game, I'm not going to get into the spoilers, but it calls into question this and renders a judgment that doesn't make sense in the context of the entire point of the series. And it's such a bummer. And I know, like, a lot of people are going to enjoy this game without having a second thought on it, and that's fine. But there's so many easy ways to fix this. It would be so much more interesting to me if your character was a charmer and somehow got people to join his side, or just if there was any other reason for why these people are becoming your allies. The weird thing is, it feels so obvious that orcs, from what I understand, and I have a feeling I'm going to get corrected on this, but in the canon, respect power, and displays of strength you think would pull people onto your side by choice rather
Right.
than this. And that would make more sense too, because then it would explain why their underlings also work for you, even though you didn't use your magic enslavement power on them. So I don't know. It really is just a game that it always just feels a little icky. On top of that, rather than simplify the process of creating these armies, like which was kind of an issue with the previous one, they just quadrupled down on it. I mean,
Ugh,
there
I know.
are so many menus to dig through. You can pick up different weapons. There's a variety of loot. You can upgrade the loot. There are gemstones that you collect, and you have to upgrade the gemstones to then upgrade your loot through gem infusion. The orcs, there's like upgrade paths for them depending on how they conquer towers. There are loot boxes that can factor in a variety of different ways. There are skill trees, and then there are micro branches of the skill trees. So one skill has then 3 additional unlocks that you can only choose one of, and you alternate between them. It is dense, and I felt like I spent probably the first 15 hours just catching up to how to play this game and learn all these new moves that, don't get me wrong, are cool, but at a certain point, I want to feel like I'm like not playing the menu and I'm playing the game.
Yeah, I never got to that point. I played this for a long time, and you go down so many mechanical rabbit holes, like to the point where I was Googling walkthroughs, and not for like missions, but for UI elements. Like, how do I manage this? Because I can't find the menu to do this. You can get to a point where you have orcs in your army that you want to level up, and you can pit them in a fight against another orc, and the way that plays out is you watch 2 AI orcs fight for like 3 minutes, and it's so wild that it made me feel like I had been abandoned by the no one thought about anyone actually
Having to do
taking
it.
advantage of this mechanic. Like, did you all think through watching 2 AI orcs fight each other? Like, no one must
and they
have
can
thought
go
through
on
this, right?
for a long time, because there are scenarios where I had one where it was something like one character's strength was, I don't know, like fire, and the orc he was fighting, his strong defense was against fire. I don't know if it was exactly that, but it was something where it just was like watching them chip away at health bars
Brutal.
forever. We accidentally triggered one of these fights in our stream, and mercifully it ended very quickly. But I was afraid that we were going to have a 30-minute stream of just 2 AI characters going at it.
It is desperately in need of an editor. And if I had to guess, I would say that a lot of this stemmed from, and again, this is complete hypothesizing on my part, but there are chests that you could pay real world money for to unlock legendary orcs to fight alongside of you. And if I had to guess, a lot of these mechanics were glommed on to sort of justify that aspect. Because
I don't think that's how.
Yeah, I think the sad thing is they're just bad. Like,
Well, I don't think it's just that. I think what might have happened, what seems more realistic, is that they designed this game, and then they're like, okay, which parts of this game can we put behind monetization? Oh, these orcs that let you kind of crush the opponents are a huge advantage. Let's make them easier to get if you just spend money. And that's where that issue comes from. I don't think they're necessarily adding things to support monetization. I think they're chipping away at chunks of the game that work for monetization.
Yeah, I think the other bummer, too, of this game is it's a weird game where its strengths somehow became its weaknesses. You can have these huge crowds of orcs. And on some level, the idea is that you could skip the entire process. Don't put together your army. Don't recruit allies. Go right to a big castle. Get in a fight. Get overwhelmed. And you'll probably die. And that's fine. That's like a cool gating thing. It would be great if I felt like I had a chance when it came to fighting big crowds. It uses a very similar Batman style combat, and it turns out that is great, but maxes out around like 7 or 8 enemies. Once you have just a horde of enemies on screen, it just feels terrible, and there aren't a lot of abilities that take out large groups. Trying to think of the Warriors games style. And I understand they're different games, but you just feel weak in a way that seems at odds with what type of game.
Oh, you mean Dynasty Warriors?
Yeah, thank you.
I thought you were talking about the Warriors, the
Me too.
PS2.
No, there's huge. He's right. There's huge fights that you feel like, wow, there are too many people. There's one boss battle inside a castle where I think this is around the point that I bailed on it, where when you go in, you are locked in a room where fire is shooting up from the ground, and you can't escape. You can't get high ground. You can't like do some sneaky shit to turn the odds in your favor. It is literally just like fight your way out. And you get so overwhelmed by enemies, and there just isn't like a good AoE, I'm going to take everybody down. And the irritating thing is, if you're good, you can continue to parry your way through groups of enemies, and it's exhausting, and it takes forever, and it's zero fun. And you can call in reinforcements. You can have a bodyguard as one of the orcs that you capture. You can make your bodyguard who you can call at your whim. But if you're trying to capture another orc in there, it's a huge risk factor, because they could kill the orc that you're trying to capture, and I think it was probably conceived to be dynamic, but it's just like, it is not built for those big group battles, which is what you find yourself in a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to talk about a
one
game
nice
people
thing
like.
really quick. I'll say it
Yeah,
really,
because
really
that was
fast.
super negative.
Yeah, so all this is super frustrating. But when the game surprises you, and maybe some of this is accidental, maybe some of it is designed to do these things, it is magical. And the example that I will give is at the beginning of the stream with that I did with Frush. I wanted to get to the highest point I could find to start on a really gorgeous view, right? And 2 seconds before we start the stream, I get bombarded by one of my allies, my number 1 orc, the dude that I had carried along with me the entire time. And I loved him because he was dressed as a bird, and he is the dopiest looking orc in the entire game. And he found me at the top of a perch, and then I fought a giant orc bird thing on top of the tallest tower in the game, and cut him in half, and his body fell all the way down to the bottom of this tower. And it was such a great unintended moment. And when the game clicks like that, it feels so wonderful. It's a shame that it seems to get in the way of all of it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go next, Russ, or do you want me to go next?
Well, I think mine is the big one at the end, so you should probably go.
All right, well, I'll do The Evil Within 2. Surprise! You probably didn't expect to hear that one in here. I didn't expect to play it. I was between games. I kind of have petered out on Destiny 2 almost completely at this point. And Stardew Valley 2 came out on Switch this month, and I played a lot of that.
Wait, no, don't say it like that, because people will think that the sequel to Stardew Valley came out on Switch.
Oh, I'm sorry. I played a lot of Stardew Valley on Switch, and
yes,
I'd sort of finished that and was looking for something to play, and so I saw Evil Within 2, and it was getting pretty good scores, and it's close to Halloween, and so I wanted to play a horror game, despite the fact I never played Evil Within 1 because I heard it was not very good. I really enjoyed the Evil Within 2, even though there are lots of problems with it. It's funny that it came out in the same year as Resident Evil 7 because it was made by Tango Gameworks, which is Shinji Mikami's studio, and there is so much of that DNA, particularly of, for me, the closest comparison is Resident Evil 4, which is the best Resident Evil game. I enjoyed it a lot. It is a survival horror game. You play as Sebastian Castellanos, the returning protagonist from Evil Within 1. Only apparently there's like a lot more story, a lot more backstory given to Sebastian. He lost his daughter in a house fire, but surprise, she's still alive and inside of this virtual environment called STEM, inside this virtual city called Union, and he has to go inside this virtual city and rescue her, but surprise, everything's really fucked up and spooky in the game, and that entails you fighting a bunch of sort of zombie-like mutant monsters and going up against other sort of bad people who are also in STEM and have been granted sort of these special powers by the environment.
So it's like Halloween Tron.
Yes, I mean it's kind of like I guess more Nightmare on Elm Street, right? It's this dream world where there are people who are taking advantage of the environment and everything is very scary and it sucks. And also, if you die in the game, you die in real life. And
like wait, for real?
Yeah, I'm dead. I died a couple times, and so I'm dead
damn.
now. What I love about the game is like there are some genuinely scary moments in it. There are some jump scary moments, and sort of the environment itself is very sort of twisted and scary, and a lot of sort of the monster designs are genuinely upsetting. There's a lot of gore and sort of horrible killings that happen. One of the first big bad guys that you meet has this camera that he can use to create a zone of slow motion, and his whole deal is he murders and then takes a picture, and so you will stumble across the crime scene and see this murder played back over and over and over again in slow motion in a very stylish but very, very gory way. There's sort of just a lot of tone work like that is very, very effective. But what I really like about the game, and it's like my favorite shit in survival horror games, and again, it's why Resident Evil 4 is my favorite game, and I honestly think that Evil Within 2 did it better than Resident Evil 7 did earlier this year, is the escalation of power, the slow and hard-earned escalation of power where you start out the game and there's some stealth mechanics in the game that are actually pretty good. There's taking cover in bushes and instant kills and throwing bottles to distract enemies to sort of gain an advantage over a situation, and ammunition for your weapons is very scarce to a certain point. But as the game goes on, you can find parts that you can upgrade your weapons with in various ways, or you can find weapons or find broken weapons that you have to repair with parts. And so you kind of pick a favorite one. For me, it's like almost always in these sorts of games, just the first handgun you find, and then turning it into a ship cannon is always a very, very satisfying thing for me. But you also get this stuff called green gel from enemies that you kill that you can use to customize Sebastian in various ways. So you can make it so that he sprints faster or regenerates health faster, or it can sneak better or gain special, instant stealth kill abilities. And so at the start of the game, like, you are completely helpless and you are dropped in this city where the streets are just flooded with these monsters that will annihilate you. And so it kind of has an open world feel to it. You have this communicator that you're using to track your daughter through this environment, but you will also get signals from downed members of this military organization or from civilians who are trapped in Union, and you can sort of follow the path of your communicator to find them, and a lot of the time they'll be dead, and you can use your communicator to sort of witness their last few moments. And you can use the communicator to track down upgrades and all kinds of stuff. So you start out the game, you're completely weak, and you can be killed very, very easily. And then by the end of the game, you are this zombie slaying demigod, which is like the trajectory of my favorite horror movies also. And so when a game pulls it off really well, it's always really satisfying. And
yeah, Plante and I streamed what was probably the first like open world area.
Yeah.
Got wrecked.
Yeah, he was definitely just getting creamed left, right, and center.
It's so tough. There's a lot of variety in the not a lot, but there's some cool variety in the enemies that come after you. There is one enemy who is essentially the witch from the Left 4 Dead games, which is, hey, horror games, put those in all of them, because it's super fucking scary to hear like the croaking, and then all of a sudden this old woman with bleach white hair is running at you with a knife that she will just stab you to death with instantly. It's not a great game. It gets a little bit. It is, I think, a good game. I think it gets a little bit repetitive, and around the halfway point, like, the main villain changes in a way that I don't think is necessarily earned, and it's like it completely changes. It's almost like they had an idea for what they wanted Evil Within 3 to be, but then they realized that what they had for Evil Within 2 wasn't enough for a whole game, and so they kind of squished the two together in a sort of clumsy way. But that said, the last sort of chapter of the game is actually really fantastic, and I was not expecting this game to pull off sort of an emotional moment that it kind of did in the finale, which was unexpected and impressive. But I don't think I like it as much as Resident Evil 7, all told, because I think in total, Resident Evil 7 was such a fresh, revolutionary take on survival horror in a way that maybe Evil Within 2 is derivative, but it's derivative and successful in what it tries to derive. But
it also, like, I wonder if it's whether this is true. I might be totally crazy, but I feel like there's something very hard about making a game where you have these abilities to like customize and make yourself more powerful over time, and maintaining that level of tension throughout becomes very difficult, because you don't know, did you collect all the shit in level 3? Well, if you did, you're probably collecting all the shit everywhere.
It's not that. It really, I don't think it's that, where like it's like, okay, oh no, I missed one thing, because you can kill enemies and get gel out of them, and you're gonna be good. I think that maybe it actually the balance as a whole was pretty good, but the last few chapters of the game, I was untouchable. My pistol was upgraded all the way so that I could basically 2 or 3 shots to any enemy and they go down, and I had enough. You collect resources as you're exploring, so like raw resources like gunpowder or herbs or pipes that you can then use at crafting stations to create weapons, and my stockpile was so buck wild by the end of the game that I basically had infinite ammo, so the tension was more or less gone at that point. But by that point, sort of the story grabs you and pulls you through the last few chapters or so. I don't think it's for everybody. I enjoy these games, and I think the length was just right. Finished it in about 9 hours, 10 hours or so, which is about how much I want to spend in a world like this. And when it's that sort of condensed and that tight, I feel like they can get that power escalation just right. I was surprised by how much that I enjoyed it. Not enough to go back and play the original Evil Within, because again,
Sure.
it looks so bad. They don't do that letterbox thing in Evil Within 2, which is great. Although, spoilers, I guess, when you finish the game, you can replay it with the letterbox on.
Terrific.
If you really want to. There's some really great, there's lots of like flashback segments to the events of the first game. And whenever it does do those flashback segments, a lot of the times it cuts into the letterbox mode, which is very fun. Yeah, it's a good little game.
Cool.
Cool.
I guess we should continue on to the next game.
Yeah, let's keep trucking. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, which is a baffling 2. I mean, it's just the wildest 2 that I can
It's not called
conceive of.
Wolfenstein 2, though, right? It's just
It's
called
just
Wolfenstein the New Colossus.
It is
Really?
Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. Look at some box art.
Okay.
Check it out. It's Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus.
What's wrong with the 2?
Yeah.
Because there's just no reality in which this is Wolfenstein 2. It's just not.
Yeah, it's the Wolfenstein like 8 or something.
It's
at this point.
Wolfenstein 8 or 9. It's just
I
not
understand.
2. I mean, it is a direct sequel to the other Wolf. It wasn't a remake. They're all canon. Like all the Wolfenstein games are within the same timeline.
Yeah, I
canon.
guess that's fair.
Okay, Wolfenstein 2. If you played, let's talk mechanically first. If you played the last Wolfenstein game, you pretty much know what to expect here. You're charging your way through stages, and you are with a blend of stealth and just straight run and gun.
Comically large amounts of violence.
Yeah, 2-gun, huge kills. And you have the option of stealth or going loud. I think that the best blend is usually somewhere in between those. They have a really smart way of pivoting so that if you use stealth until you kill, each area has these commanders. And if you can stealth your way to killing a commander, then they can't call an alarm and bring down more people on you. So generally what feels best to me, and I think is sort of like the most sensical way of approaching most areas, is stealthing your way to the commander, killing the commander, and then going loud, if you will.
Were you successful in that a lot? I played the first Wolfenstein. I really enjoyed the blend of stealth and action, and in this one, it just felt like the enemies could see through fucking space and time, and I could not sneak to save my life.
Yeah, it's tough. You more than a lot of stealth games, you don't have like vision cones or what have you, which I was really desperate for, or like enemy highlights and that kind of thing through walls or whatever, which is realistic, I guess. But
also a lot of the rooms are these huge open spaces, and if there's an enemy on the other side of it, without like much cover to get you over to them, it feels like, well, I'm gonna get spotted here, so let's just start shooting. About
midway through the game, you get some equipment that actually helps with that. If you choose, there's you're offered a choice after one story beat of sort of a stealth focused gear or battle focused gear or tactically focused gear, and what you choose actually opens up some gameplay opportunities that helped a lot with stealth in the later stages. But it's different from a lot of first-person shooters in that it does not reward you sort of like getting the high ground or getting to a good position and picking off people. You will get overwhelmed and killed pretty quickly. The only thing that really works well if you're going to be, going loud, if you will, is to just keep moving. You move very quickly, but you are fairly vulnerable. Like, you're surprisingly vulnerable. I think it's not helped that the game is very bad at communicating to you when you're taking damage.
Thank you. Oh my God. It's just, my number is low. What happened? Oh, I got shot 100 times.
Yeah, it is not. You start to get some visual and rumble feedback when you're very close to death, and by then a lot of times it's too late. It's very bad at relating that information to you. The other sort of mechanical thing that really bothered me is the level design is
the worst.
So bad, and it's weird in that there's a couple problems with it. One of them is that gear that I mentioned. You have opportunities to get through levels depending on what gear you have. So there's like stilts that can raise you up, and there's a weird torso armor that compresses you and lets you squeeze through tubes. And there's a harness that lets you ram through walls. And usually the way it shakes out is you'll get to a point where you see a tube and there's some bricks on the wall and there's a high point you could climb to. It's like, well, I guess I'll just use whichever one of those I got, huh? All right, well, you're the boss.
I want to say really quickly, because I feel like I've never been so more on the other side of history about a game than I do about this one, because I think it's bad. Like, I think it's a bad game, and it's the level design shit that is unforgivable to me in a way where I just can't. I just was not having a good. I played about half the game and would never had a good time the whole time.
It's an intangible thing, especially if you're like us and are not game designers. But I very, very, very often in Wolfenstein, if you play a Valve game, for instance, I think they're probably the best at this. Other people are very good, but if you play like Half-Life, you are being subtly guided from A to B without like a gross blinking arrow. You're just like, the world shows you where to go. And that...
Yeah, like the door is lit and you can see and
exactly
stuff like that.
right.
This game does give you a blinking area. It gives you a button you can press to make a waypoint appear. And even that's not enough to show you like where in these labyrinthine, poorly sort of poorly pathed levels you're supposed to play in. And I wanted to do a quick anecdote. I gave up on the game halfway through, but the story is so cool that I wanted to watch the rest of it. So I watched a YouTube sort of compilation of all the cutscenes. And at the end of the game, I won't spoil it, but there's a bit where you're supposed to sort of sneak through a crowd, and you're supposed to like crouch down and go through some bleachers and then go up like this ladder, and now you're on some catwalks. But also there's like other pathways you can go down, and there's like a stack of boxes that maybe it looks like you can get over, but you can't actually jump over it. And then there's another hallway, and you get to the end of it and all the doors are locked. And so I was watching this thing, like trying to watch the ending of the game, because I knew I'm never going to go back and finish this. And the person playing it got stuck at that part, like the climactic part of the game, for like 4 minutes, because they kept trying to jump over the boxes. They kept trying to fucking.
I had the exact same.
And it's like, this is the climactic ending of the game, and it's you are robbing it of power because you put this. It sucks. Like, the pathing sucks. It sucks so
I actually
bad.
got stuck in that moment trying to find my way through, and got glitched on the environment. I had to reload the checkpoint.
It's like, how's the end of your fucking video game? It's mind-boggling to me.
Narratively, though, it is so far ahead of most games in this genre that it is. I think it's like almost embarrassing to them. The writing is like uniformly great. The performances are really, really good. The themes of the game are like very deftly handled in a way that sort of the overarching thing. If I were to point to like one sort of main thematic idea that keeps getting resurfaced, is that the Nazis are in America, and not everybody is like against the Nazis. There are people for whom the Nazi way of life is working out pretty good, and you get to see that, and you get to see their logic, and you get to see Americans sort of like subscribing to Nazism to keep their way of life.
Does it go into the birth of eugenics in America, or does it act like Germany is where this all started?
I mean, it's alternate timeline, so like it does not, from what I say, and I'm maybe there's like news clippings or whatever that touch on this. It does not talk about the fact that like eugenics was sort of got a lot of Germans took a lot of their inspiration. And also that would have been, 15 years or 20 years before this game took place. So it's not something that necessarily would be in the topic of this game. But it does it shows what like America under Nazi control would look like, and how people either fight back against that and kind of at the cost of everything, or
are complacent, and that's another form of true evil.
Yeah, exactly. And what Pat sort of mentioned was, and this is obviously a very touchy subject, but basically he was explaining. Pat has played a lot of it and done a lot of interviews with the developers, stuff like that, and he was talking about how basically it highlights just how close America was at that time, with like a slight nudge into just like this becoming the norm. Now, obviously, this is a very fantastical game, but you know, this was, you know, pre-civil rights and all that stuff, and you know, this was a very dodgy time, and it seems like the game really highlights that aspect
It
of
does highlight that while still including some of the most video game shit. I like some of the beats, and you probably hear people will sort of obliquely mention this stuff, and it's really something you have to like see for yourself to keep from it being spoiled, but like, because it would have zero impact with me just like saying the shit that happens, but it is full of like beats that are like, wait, they're not actually gonna, wow, okay, that's what we're doing, apparently this is happening, and that happens, and it feels earned. Like it doesn't fit, like the world, all credit to them, the world that they've built is one that can facilitate these sorts of like classic sci-fi, imagining the American psyche through a different lens to highlight things in our America, can do that, and also like robot dogs on Venus, like that kind of crap.
Yeah.
You know, it is fascinating, and the story stuff and all the characters and a lot of the beats, and even like it even has like quieter moments that work better than most games that are mainly quieter moments. It's just like so well done, that it makes me a little sad that like I so was not in love with the rest of it, and I had a better time than Griffin. I think that once you get I especially enjoyed it once you get the stealth gear thing, the thing that like lets you go through tubes, has a perk on it called Terrorbilly, which is what the Germans have labeled you, and it gives you like a 2-second grace period when you get spotted that lets you like hide back or take somebody out with a silenced gun or whatever. And I started enjoying things a lot more after I got that.
What I don't understand is that something changed. Something went wrong between Wolfenstein 1 and Wolfenstein 2, or between New Order and New Colossus. Because I thought New Order felt fucking fantastic. I thought I even had problems with the gunplay in Wolfenstein 2. Where I felt like a lot of the guns felt like really weak. I felt like to use a more, I guess, Destiny or Call of Duty style term, like the time to kill on a lot of the weapons felt kind of bad, and you really start to notice it in these sections where you get ambushed, and now there's like 30 Nazis pouring in to attack you, and each one takes like a little bit longer than you think it should take, but that adds up a lot over time.
It also seemed like, and I only played it very briefly, I was playing it on a stream with Pat, it seems like the auto aim is like almost non-existent.
No,
which is an interesting.
I felt the opposite. I felt like the auto aim.
Really?
Maybe you had it turned off, but if it's turned on, it's bad to the point of you are aiming at the enemy 10 yards behind the enemy who's right the fuck in front of you.
Oh, got it.
And Justin mentioned it in passing, but like the no feedback when you're getting hit, like at all, is really. It's a fart in the face every time that you get killed, because you didn't know, oh, there was an enemy down the hallway that did have line of sight on me, that was hitting me with bullets, and I wasn't paying attention to my HUD at the bottom of the screen, and now I'm dead. So good. I'm having a lot of fun. I love the cutscenes and everything Justin said about the story and the acting, and everything was totally on point, and I think the rest of the game is really disappointing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't really played very much of it, but obviously the general consensus does seem to be way more positive than that, so I am surprised.
I feel like there's people. I'm never this guy, but there's people who are giving this game a fucking perfect score, and it's like there's so much bad.
That's kind of a video game thing, you know. Like I don't want to completely say that I don't believe in other people's opinions, yada yada yada. But a big but, like, holy cow, do people in video games often really want video games to be great movies? And you get something with like a little bit of ambition and a little bit better of a story. It's
the David Cage bump.
Yeah, everything becomes like all but forgiving.
I think David's lost the goodwill for that bump.
We should. We're running out of time, so I think we're probably
time for that final one. I'm gonna steal it from you.
Okay.
Right?
I feel like I don't know why Russ gets to
Second.
do this one because I've played the game that Russ is about to talk about more than maybe any other game this year.
Tough shit.
It's
Griffin.
a me.
So
I feel like we've been very
um,
negative about our other games this month. It's
It's
kind
true.
of bumming me
Straight
out.
up, I was disappointed in a lot of the game. I played a little bit of Shadow of War, thought it was pretty bad. Played Wolfenstein, didn't like it. Played a little Assassin's Creed, didn't like it. And I was all psyched for October
good news.
26th. Was supposed to be the second coming, but I don't know.
Justin, good
So,
news.
the
This is
final-
going to be a posy one.
Yeah.
the final game is Super Mario Odyssey.
Uh-huh.
And I pretty much played until the point where Mario gets his hat destroyed by Bowser, and then so you guys should probably fill in the rest. No, so Super Mario Odyssey. In my mind, it's essentially the first really new Super Mario game since Galaxy 2. Well, I guess you could argue Galaxy.
talking about?
Like
Super
3D Mario. I
World
know what
was
you mean.
fucking
3D Mario.
exceptional.
Here, no. These are great games, but I would say Super Mario Land, Super Mario 3D Land, and 3D World do not reinvent what a Mario game can
Except
be.
for the multiplayer Super Mario 3D World is a
hey,
fucking
it's called
masterpiece.
Super Mario 2, Griffin. They did it.
Okay. What?
Didn't that have co-op?
What?
No, I guess it didn't.
What are you
You
talking
just had
about?
multiple characters. Anyway, sorry. Here's what I'm gonna say. It's an Super Mario Odyssey. I think, in my opinion, is a big departure in a lot of ways from the Mario formula. Obviously, a lot of the similarities are there, but what makes it, I mean, it's an excellent game. It's really just a tremendously good game from the visual design of all of the kingdoms they're called.
Yeah.
And just being charmed your way through, collecting all the moons and talking to people and stuff like that. I think what blows me away way more so about the game is just that they managed to one up Super Mario 6. What?
One up.
Oh,
It was
one up.
like, he's
Not
the
good.
one mushroom.
Pretty
he
good.
gets
They
it.
managed to
pretty
one
good.
up Super Mario 64 when it comes to showing how to make 3D world traversal super fun and interesting. They basically looked at every movement that Mario makes and gave him a level of momentum and fluidity that we really have not seen anywhere near the level that they do in this game.
Well, it's because this is a best of, in a lot of ways, of the different sort of traversal techniques from crouch jumping in 64 all the way up to the butt stomp jump and the spinning jump in, like, everything that Mario has ever been able to do in a Mario game, he is able to do in Odyssey.
And in addition to that, you have the element of the hat, which becomes like a huge traversal element where you're using it as a portable springboard and all that stuff. So I think like that for me is what grabbed me initially. Like, having seen the trailers, I was like, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be great. And then the second I started playing, I was like, holy shit, this is like a mind-blowingly fun game to just fuck around in and just like roll down sand dunes and like just screw around in the world. It's like insanely fun in the way that like Destiny works, because the guns feel really good to fire and it's a very hard thing to put your finger on exactly how they pulled that off and why it works. Same thing here in terms of movement. I don't think there's another game out there ever that has nailed 3D movement as good as
it's the best feeling platformer of all time. And what's really great about it is while you're dicking around on a sand dune, you'll roll into a cactus and then a moon will jump out of it. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, the world is so dense with things to find, and it gives you so many different avenues to find those things that you are on this reward loop that hits you up with dopamine every 20 seconds from and I played this game for probably about 40 hours in maybe the course of a week, a lot of late nights playing it, and it doesn't stop. It does not stop with that loop. It is constantly rewarding you just for having fun and playing around in this world and seeing like what's around the next corner.
And it goes even
and we
further.
haven't even
sorry, I was just gonna say it goes further than even the like, oh, you roll around in the world and hit the cactus. The thing that I was so impressed to see, that I guess has been a thing with Mario from the very beginning, is it knows that people like to break the game and it rewards you for doing it.
Yeah.
And it's also so quality assured beyond any other game that you can break. There are moves that people have figured out pretty quickly about how to get to a place that would be otherwise out of reach because of the ways you can manipulate the jumps. and you will get above a stage, and while you're walking around on top of the stage, you'll find coins because they understood that, oh, somebody's going to figure out a way to break it to get up here. So let's like reward them for it.
Miyamoto was here first. Nice try. I'm already up here. I'm dropping coins.
They're laughing.
And we haven't even talked about the capture mechanic, which I think there is, at least for me, there are moments when I'm playing a Mario game, especially the really, really big ones like Galaxy, where, you know, sometimes I get like a little burnt out because essentially your moveset is pretty standard. You know, obviously can get power of, you know, like a Fire Flower or something like that. But for the most part, using the same moves. And so by introducing the capture mechanic of being able to throw your hat onto most of the creatures in the game, or at least a lot of them, it's constantly being like, it's letting you do things you couldn't do before, whether that's running really fast or swimming underwater without dying or whatever it is.
I mean, those are, you've just mentioned two of the most uninspired. Like, how about turning into a tank where you can shoot fucking rockets at stuff, or turning into a worm where you can extend your body like huge links and wrap around corners and...
So it's doing all those things, but it's also introducing a level of surprise where, you know, after you've gotten your first leaf, you know what the leaf's going to do. You know what your powers are. But if you walk up to a caterpillar in the middle of the jungle and you throw your hat on him, you have no fucking clue what it's going to do.
But you do know it's like a new language, or it's a new lens through which to view this world, because every time I found a new capture, you just know there's going to be 30 little moons or 30 secrets or 30 challenge rooms where I'm going to be using this mechanic in new, like they exhaust every possible use of every possible ability in the game to some extent or another, where you will find a room with this enemy in it, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to use the worm this way. I didn't even know I could use it that way, but okay, great.
Yeah, and just from like a game design standpoint, like this is where Nintendo shines, is like introducing you to a basic mechanic and then just like totally making it like turn on its head. But there are just so many of those creatures that feel as good to control as Mario does. My favorite in the game is probably this bird. What's his name?
I think it's Pickpock or Pock or Pick or something like that.
Pick, whatever. He's like this little bird. He's got little legs and he runs really slowly. But he's got a nose that you can extend. It's like a giant wooden nose, like a Pinocchio nose, that you can extend, and you can use that to poke enemies to kill them, or like shoot bombs off in different directions, like deflect bombs. You can also run up to most walls and extend it, and you basically shove your nose into the wall, and then you can flick yourself up to like a different part of the wall. And it feels so fucking good. Anytime there's flicking in this game, sorry, that sounds dirty, but it feels fucking spectacular, like super
There's
fucking
even
good.
A boss fight that you fight as that bird, and it's so good, and it's so smart because it helps them to break out of the sort of classic, like a lot of bosses in Mario games, you sort of know the language. They can only change the language of it so much because you know what the sort of vocabulary of the fight is going to be. You know, you have jump and you have ground pound and you have maybe fireballs or whatever. But when they introduce these like boss fight, there's at least two I can think of off the top of my head where boss fights as an animal a creature you've captured, like you have no idea. You're going in completely blind because like who knows how it's going to take advantage of the new mechanics.
Yeah. The other thing I really like about it is the way it handles the game flow the first time you get through the game. So going from level 1 to essentially the final kingdom, so to speak, is really smart because basically what they do is they're like, okay, you just got into this new kingdom. You need 7 moons. And once you find 7 moons and you kill the boss of this kingdom, you can move on. And a lot of times in these sorts of games, what you'll get is like, well, you found 7 moons, there's 40 more. And although the game does show you via a list that there are 40 more, the game doesn't like shame you into that, at least the first time you're going through the game. You're just sort of like experiencing the world and like digesting it. But I didn't feel that level of guilt of like, okay, I'm moving on to a new level, but I haven't found everything yet. Once you beat the game,
you're filled with like genuine excitement to see what the next kingdom is going to be.
Totally. I cannot, like, every single kingdom is like a total like present wrapped.
I just wish it was communicated a little bit better that you are not even able to get everything sort of your first time through.
Yeah.
Because I think that left me with a sort of frustrating. I like to make sure I'm done with a place before I move on. That's sort of my approach to these things normally.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I wish it had been communicated to me that like that's not even like you're not going to be able to finish this, so you probably shouldn't do your like I'm going to try to get everything level like fine tooth comb exploration until you've already finished the game and come back. Which people will tell you if you ask them that, people who've played, but the game itself doesn't communicate it.
Yeah, it doesn't do a great job. There are a number of moons that are like poorly listed. If you're a completionist, like you're trying to get all the moons, they'll be like, well, you need to find a hint in this other world, and then you can go back to this older world, but the moon is listed in the initial world. So there's like some weirdness there if you're a completionist. But the fact that once you beat the game, and this has become kind of a Mario staple, but this game in particular is like definitely to the extreme. You're 50% of the way through essentially, because there's so much shit that gets unlocked after you beat the game, whether it's like brand new dungeons that you couldn't access before, totally new challenges,
and
totally
almost universally that post game stuff is much harder than the stuff the first time around. And like playing the game the first time around was amazing, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite times playing games this year. But it was kind of easy. And then the post-game stuff shows you that you are a child, and this is actually what the real shit is, culminating in sort of a final bonus level that you can unlock that is really fucking hard. But then when you beat it, you feel like the emperor of video games.
Yeah, I have not gotten there yet. But it is great.
I want to complain about motion controls.
Oh yeah,
okay,
they're bad.
that is a fair complaint. Go for it, Justin.
There are really cool moves that are done via motion controls that you don't have that you just can't do without them. There's a cool like throw your hat around in a circle. And
well, that one you can do without motion controls.
How do you do that without motion controls?
You can actually spin, if you use the left analog stick and run it in a circle, you can start to spin Mario, and while he's spinning, if you hit the throw hat button, it'll do the circle throw.
Are you kidding? Like what?
Yeah.
So you spin Mario anyway. You can't do it without motion controls. And
well, you can,
you basically can't
there
do it without
are
motion
moves
controls.
You can't.
And there's a throw your hat up in the air, straight up in the air kind of move.
That one I can't do without motion
controls. And it just, it's so wild to me. One, because there are two really good face buttons that are basically just mirrors of the other two, and that could have helped with this effort. There's no reason it can't all be matched and put on the motion controls. It seems so strange to me that that this information was continuing to be surfaced when I played. The only way I played this game, and I finished it, and the only way I finished the first thing. I'm digging in for like more moons and stuff, but I finished it without ever using the motion controls once, and I continued to get that information surfaced to me, even though I clearly was like not playing that way. And you could theoretically do the motions with your $300 not always in stores console if you want to start shaking that bad boy around, throwing it hither and yon. Even that is like extremely imprecise. You are meant to be doing it with detached Joy-Cons, which is my number one least favorite way to play the Switch, period, forever and ever. Who likes that? It's unfathomable to me. But it's really frustrating that they like, it's all so kind and so considered in a way that like literally every other game that we're talking about this month, with the exception of Wolfenstein, which I think is just has problems but is not necessarily like mean-spirited, but a lot of the other games that we've talked about this month where it's trying to like wring some extra cash out of you in really gross ways. Like it's such a generous game. It's like it only wants to please you. It wants to make sure you're having fun. It has thought about everything that there's not a ledge that is put there for no reason. Like it's all so lovingly made. And then to have like some of the game forced into motion controls just feels like so
they needed you to know what this game was made by Nintendo. And there was no half-baked online infrastructure, or they needed you to know somehow, hey, Nintendo did make this one.
It just feels very incompatible with the idea of the Switch, which seems to be like, I don't know, play it how you want. Do you want to play it as a portable game console? Like, go for it. And if you look at the stats that came out, about 50% of people, like the majority of people, I should say not 50%, the majority of people are using it about 50-50. They're using it like some in the dock, some out. And then like 30% of people are using it just out of the dock and just in the dock. So like everybody's using it differently. I don't know why Nintendo felt compelled to sort of impose this mechanic onto you, like to force you to play this way. It seems very strange to me.
The other thing I kind of want to talk about, I don't know if this belongs. Do we want to talk about? No, this probably belongs in our Game of the Year discussion. Never mind.
Okay.
What is it?
I'm
curious.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, do we want to start talking?
Just we all appreciate a good mystery.
Well, I was going to say, do we want to start talking about this in Zelda?
I'm
games?
actually very, very curious to talk about it because a lot of the buzz since this game came out is I love it. This is the discussion taking place. Which Nintendo Switch exclusive is going to be the game of the year, Zelda or Mario? Because I feel like it's going to be one of those cake or pie Elvis or Beatles like dichotomies.
So I'm of the opinion that there's really only...
Wait. Elvis or Beatles?
This doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's never been said. You are the first person in literally the history of the world.
I'm literally not the first person to say
Elvis
that.
or Beatles? No, Rolling Stone or Beatles? Maybe.
Well,
Elvis or Beatles?
I mean, I guess you're asking at that point, are you very old? Are you a very old person?
I mean, there are a lot of Slate articles about Elvis Presley or the Beatles, who was better.
Okay, so I still think Zelda is one of the best games ever made. So but we shouldn't do this here. But I do think this is better.
We're not going to do it here.
This is better than Destiny 2. Yes, absolutely. Right?
Yeah. I do want to knock one more very small thing, is that as I'm going through now and trying to get 500 moons, which unlocks essentially the last kingdom of the game.
500.
Yeah, I know. Settle down, Griffin.
By the way, Griffin, I still have unanswered emails from you. Like, what are you doing with your life? You
collecting collecting all the moons.
Okay, great.
Some of the like post-game moon collection stuff can feel a little not super magical. I'll give you an example. There's like 5 of the moons that use this kind of lame, what is it called? Slot machine mechanic that just like shouldn't be in the game.
It takes fucking 10 seconds to do it.
It takes 10 seconds. I shouldn't be doing it. It's not magical. I shouldn't be doing it.
It's very pointless.
I would say they are. Yeah, I would just say they are. Those are few and far between, but it can feel a little grindy at times. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it's an excellent game.
Also, New Donk City is the best fucking area that's ever been in a Mario game. Come at me. It is. I would play a whole Mario game just in New Donk City. Don't fucking try to step up. It's the best ever, and I don't want to hear any of your shit. But in Super Mario Sunshine, New Donk City's the best. It has real human people, and they're just all around. You can step on their fucking heads.
The only problem I have with New Donk City is it didn't have 15 uninterrupted minutes of Mario just like, what? What? Who? How? And poor Pauline, who's like is a day walker halfway between the Mario and human being aesthetic.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That she does not really visually coincide with everyone else that lives there.
So wait, this is a new quarter, right? October, November, December is the 4th quarter of the year. So this does not unseat D2, I guess.
Destiny 2 lives on.
So the question that we have currently, and it's gonna be tough in November and December to unseat Mario. The question currently for Game of the Year is Mario, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds,
Sheesh.
Legend of Zelda,
Jesus
and
Christ. Destiny
2. And if you wanted to get snippy about it, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds should realistically be up against Mario in this quarter because it's technically coming out in December. Like if you want to get particular about
the 1.0 bullshit.
But it's our show.
Whatever.
We can do whatever we want, so it'll maintain its position. So, but that's right? Those are the 4 currently.
Yeah, but we will also see. We should mention it's not just going to be 4 games in the Game of the Year thing. We will bring back old stupid favorites like Persona 5.
So I'm looking ahead to the rest of the year to kind of see.
I don't know, gang.
I don't have going on.
I'm
gonna be a little
excited
rough.
for Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, because the Pokemon Sun and Moon came out right when my baby was born, and so I barely played it at all. So I'm excited for that.
Not an amazing
So
Pokemon.
Call of Duty.
Yeah, I already reviewed that one.
Okay. But
We'll talk about it next month.
Call of Duty Octodad's coming to the Switch. That's fun.
That's
What's
fine.
going on with November? November used to be the shit, and now I guess everybody's just moved all their...
Battlefront is a big game.
Yeah.
Need
Star Wars.
for Speed.
I
Need for
can't
Speed.
believe
I didn't even realize there was a Need for Speed
I can't
game
believe
coming
I'm
out.
saying this out loud, but LA Noire is coming out this month.
HD
That's
remix.
pretty good. Coming to Switch. LA Noire, man. Okay, I hope they're testing the waters because that would be hysterical. Did they make that better, or is it just still kind of a bad game in a lot of ways?
I do kind of want to know how it looks in HD.
Oh, man.
It was good technology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Battlefront and Call of Duty look to be about it. That's rough. It's gonna be a rough November, and then December. Like, yikes.
Rocket League on Switch.
I mean, yeah, ports on.
We're
ports.
going to talk about Animal Crossing next month at length.
Yeah.
They are still in testing, so there's really no
Absolutely.
telling.
I feel kind
launch.
of guilty for dumping on it because like they could still fix this shit. I'm also mostly salty just because like I haven't been able to open my friends list, and it's like sort of very social online game, and it's
Whose fault is that?
You tried, are you gonna say mine? Because I tried to get too many friends.
It's your fault. It's your fault.
Skyrim also. I'd love to bring the Skyrim to
and
Besties.
Doom.
Yeah.
Doom on Switch.
Skyrim VR or
Skyrim Switch, which I'm going to get into that.
yeah, I mean I know I am too.
And Pokemon. Sure. We can
I'm
get
kinda
we're
curious
getting
whether
in
it'll-
November together. December
Yeah.
still. Like no.
No.
Be a thing.
Dead Rising 4, Frank's Big Package. A real game that's coming out.
Oh no.
Oh golly.
EDF 5, apparently, Chris Plant.
What about that while we're talking about this, Horizon Zero Dawn? Is that
The DLC. Plant, you
was
just
that
reviewed
next-
that, didn't you?
I
Is
did.
that next month?
You can read it on Polygon.com.
Is that out now?
Here's the great thing about this DLC. Maybe this is just for Griffin, since he was a sad, mean boy who gave up on the game too early. If you haven't played the game, the DLC is, I think, fantastic. It slots into the game as part of the story, and I don't know, it kind of digs into something that I think is interesting about the story. Unfortunately, if you have finished the game, it doesn't slot in well at all, and it's basically a lot of the things that were frustrating about the game all in one spot, and you have to go back and learn how to play it, which maybe, Griffin, I don't know if this is why you bounced off, but it is, talk about games that are complicated and have annoying menus. It's this game. The inventory system stinks.
Yeah, that was my main rub.
Yeah, and having I had a full inventory system, and you come back and you can't remember what to get rid of, so it's just a headache. The most annoying thing is they clearly know this stinks, so they made one of the ability upgrades expanding your inventory by 20%. Unfortunately, you have to earn, I think, like 5 or 6 ability unlocks before you can even do that. So at that point, it's like, well, great. Now I'm near the end of this. I'm glad I have this ability that I guess would be great if I was, playing through the rest of the game. But having finished everything, this ability is essentially useless for me when I need it most.
Yeah.
But, wow, very pretty. The story and writing in those games is great. Ashley Birch's performance is like a real standout in a scene where I don't feel like there are a ton of standout voice performances for the main characters. I think they tend to be a little dull with everybody around them being interesting.
It honestly sounds like this is a good reason for me to go give it a second chance, and me
Yeah.
alone, because I didn't play
Why
a lot
are we
of it the
talking
first
about
time
this?
around.
It comes
Yeah,
out
I
in
don't know.
November, and we
Yeah,
don't
we
have
gotta wrap
games.
it up.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We should go. I did bad.
You're killing me. All right. So anyway, that's going to do it for the Besties. Be sure to join us again next month for the Besties, because shouldn't the world's best friends pick the world's best games? Besties!